Hello there. Welcome back to the booth. Marshall Sutcliffe. I've got Randy Buehler with me, and we're ready for the last round of Standard here from day one at Pro Tour Dragons of Tarkir. Hello and welcome to coverage of Pro Tour Dragons of Tarkir. Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Randy Buehler, and we are just about underway here in round 8. This is Standard. We've got one of the biggest names in the history of Magic, Paulo Vitor Damo Da Rosa, Hall of Famer with 9 Pro Tour top 8s under his belt, going up against a Pro Tour champion in Craig Wescoe. He's got 3 Pro Tour top 8s. He's a gold pro. Interestingly, all of his Pro Tour top 8s came in California. Now,
funny.
We're in Brussels, so a long way from California. Craig is going to have to fight through. Both players are sitting at 5-2, so a solid start to their tournament here, but looking really to finish at X-2 on day 1 and put themselves in a spot to make a run tomorrow.
Yeah, Craig's deck is nice. I mean, it's...
What is Craig up to?
I mean, I guess it's the closest you can get to White Weenie in this format. I don't know. I guess he could be playing Heroic. But he's green-white with a splash of blue for Dragon Lord Ojutai.
Oh, nice.
Right, so Mystic Caryatid, Fleece Mains, Coursers, Death Mist Raptor with Den Protector, which is the combo a lot of these green-white decks have. I mean, I say combo. They're both good plenty good on their own. Surrak the Hunt Caller. It's actually very similar to the Brian Kibler design that we saw Shuhei playing a couple rounds ago, although different teams, right? Craig is part of the new team Ultra Pro, and this is, I think, their take on it, where they said, you know what? Let's splash blue for Dragon Lord Ojutai.
All right, so Fleece Main Line's the first play for Craig Wescoe, but it got bile blighted right away from the blue-black control deck of Paulo Vitor Damo Da Rosa, and he passes his turn back.
Yeah, Paulo's take on blue-black control I like. It's fully 5 dragons and an Ugin. Like, this blue-black control plays Haven of the Spirit Dragon so that your lands can actually turn into spells. Yeah, two Ojutai Dragon Lords of his own, so both players worshipping at the shrine of the Dragon Lord Ojutai. A couple of Silumgars round out Paulo's design.
What about Scorn?
What about Scorn? He's got 4 Silumgar Scorn.
All right, so we're going to be seeing those.
He's even got Foul Tongue Invocation.
Not right now. Oh, he does.
Yeah, Dragon Reveal all over. Does he have... I like the Crux of Fate in here. Like, he can just kill all non-dragons and have his dragon survive.
Yeah, that
sort
is
of the dream of the Crux of Fate,
It
right?
is. It's one of the things that people marked about it when it first came out. Is just like, well, can I go? Because the obvious thing is just to say, well, it's a black sweeper. That's something that they didn't have access to before, but there was some combo potential there, no doubt about it.
For sure. And I mean, with his dragon theme, if he wants to, if the matchup's right, Dragon Lord's Prerogative comes in from the sideboard too.
I love that one. Draw 4 cards, can't be countered if you reveal a dragon or have one. That's pretty nice.
There's matchups where would you like an uncounterable opportunity in some matchups?
All right, so Craig Wescoe taking a little bit of a different turn here.
Oh, right. Mastery of the Unseen. That's the other thing these guys have done with their Ojutai Bant deck. Not in the Kibler version of green-white aggro.
Yeah, that is absolutely huge here. Control decks definitely don't want to see a Master of the Unseen on the other side of the table, especially game 1. It's unlikely that Paulo's going to have too many answers for it in the main, if any. We have him listed as blue-black, but he's actually just Esper control, right?
He does have Ojutai, yeah.
We're in the main deck, so.
I mean, I think the line, he's only got the couple, yeah. It's tough to know how many cards does it count. But yeah, he's definitely got all 3 colors. Master of the Unseen is nice in Craig's deck because it gives him even more synergy with the Den Protectors and the ability to bring back Death Mist Raptor.
So Paulo's now trying to readjust his schedule here. You know, he kind of had everything lined up to be able to kill a bunch of creatures from Wescoe as they came out and eventually take over the game with his Dragon Lord Ojutai. But now Master of the Unseen has put a bit of a wrench in that plan.
Yeah, no, it's a real threat here.
It really is. All of a sudden, Craig has effectively as many creatures as he has chunks of 4 mana forever. And he's going to be able to just outpace Paulo's 1-for-1 removal spells if that's what he wants to do. I wonder if Paulo's just going to go for Dragonlord Ojutai and try to just turn this into a race in his favor. There it is. Dragonlord Ojutai. A dragon with feathers. Such a cool card. You can take a look at it there on the right-hand side of your screen, and it is going to start wrecking Craig Wescoe if he can't. It's definitely going to outpace the Master of the Unseen in the short term. The question is, if Craig can start flipping it up a couple of times, all of a sudden the Mastery turns that corner, and Dragonlord Ojutai will not be able to race it. Kazuaki Fujimura has taken his first game against Rick Lee. Both of those players sitting at 7-0. Fujimura on red aggro. So we were talking about that a minute ago.
Only Lee's on 7-0.
Excuse me.
There's only 3 7-0s
sorry,
left.
6-1. Yes, I didn't see that.
Lee was the one who got the pair down.
Well, he's trying to bring Rick Lee down to his level with his red deck and picks up game 1, as you'll often see from those red decks. Next 2 games tend to get a bit more difficult.
Yeah, red aggro, actually the most played deck here in the metagame breakdown.
Oh, really? We just haven't seen it in the feature much.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, it's close, but red aggro did wind up on top of the count.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, because I mean, our feature matches have not been representative of the metagame breakdown. I mean, some of it is just Sirach the Hunt Caller, meanwhile, comes down and bashes.
So here comes Sirach the Hunt Caller, which is going to be formidable and attacking right now. So this race absolutely in Wescoe's favor. But there it is. Destroy all non-dragon creatures, leaving just Dragonlord Ojutai on the battlefield. Of course, Master of the Unseen is going to hang around and threaten to rebuild Wescoe's board, but not bad. Wow, look at that. And is the Dragonlord going to attack? Valorous stance has to be something on Paulo's mind.
He has to race, though. I mean, he is going to run into Valorous.
There it is, Valorous stance, in fact, for Craig Wescoe.
I don't mind Paulo's attack there, though. I think that he can't really just sit and play defense forever because Master of the Unseen essentially prevents him from playing defense. I mean, maybe he can wait a turn and not attack until he's got counter magic up. But I don't mind that attack at all.
There's a carry-added follow-up play for Wescoe, just trying to build up his mana. He's really going to be focusing on activating that Master of the Unseen for the rest of the game here as he's effectively out of gas. He's got Paulo down to 13. But being in the Bant colors there, not going to have any reach. He's not going to be able to burn him out. He's going to need to build up a board of creatures to do it. Thankfully, he has a very nice tool for just such a thing. Paulo's got another Crux of Fate in his hand. So if Craig either commits a couple of actual cards to the board or just dumps a ton of mana for the next couple of turns into his Master of the Unseen, then Paulo can sweep those away and kind of reset Craig. But not a great answer to what Craig's doing. Craig can just keep trucking along with this Master of the Unseen, and Crux isn't going to get Paulo out of this scenario for the long term. Finds a land on top with Courser, and then another land after that.
Yep. 11. What? Go.
And looks like a dig through time is being lined up here for a PV. Not much that Wescoe can do about that. The question is just, what are the answers that Paulo has floating around? Like, does he have Silumgar the Drifting Death?
Yeah, he can get Silumgar.
And if he can attack with that and another dragon, he can wipe away a bunch of the creatures?
Precisely.
Okay, so that's a way to keep that card in check.
It's tough, though. I mean, there's only...
Yeah.
He's got to get one of his Silumgars and one of his last couple Ojutais. Possible.
It is possible.
Harder now that Ojutai's dead.
Yeah, right now, Craig Wescoe can make 2 activations per turn. If he finds a land, he can do it even after a sweeper, like Crux of Fate. It's on 7 lands. It's also got the carry added for now. But once he finds that 8th land, which is, I believe, sitting on top of his library, he's going to be able to activate it twice a turn, even a Cruxifate, just so he can just end step make 2 more of them. Okay, there's business. You know, it's funny how good Ugin is in situations like this. That's what Paulo has in his hand now, because there's these problem permanents, right? And Paulo's deck is heavily blue-black with just a little bit of white. And not, you know, at least in the main deck, not for cards that can deal with that. You know, there's no utter ends floating around in the main there for Paulo, but you play a card like Ugin, which is, of course, colorless and blue-black can play, and you can get rid of a Master of the Unseen. Like, that's a problem permanent for this deck, and they don't have many main deck answers, but Ugin all of a sudden comes in and fixes that. Now, it's a little awkward.
But
it is a one-of, and it's also a little awkward against Mastery specifically, because it doesn't kill the manifest creatures that Master of the Unseen makes. So oftentimes the play ends up being play Ugin, minus it to kill a couple of creatures plus the Mastery, and then the Mastery can be activated in response and leave enough creatures back to kill Ugin on the backswing. So it doesn't solve your problem completely. So it looks like Ugin is going to be plussed here to take down the manifest creature. It is 9. It's a ton, though Wescoe does get to make another manifest creature on end step if he'd like. Believe he's got another Surrak in his hand as well. Can maybe try to set up a scenario where he manifests here, plays Surrak, gives Surrak haste. He'll have 9 and Formidable will be in effect, and then can crunch in and take out Ugin, who's at 9 right now. So this sequence looks pretty good for Wescoe, huh?
I'll do this so you know.
All right, he manifested that he left it face up just because it was public information so that Paulo knows which one it is. Just a courtesy to his opponent. But as you can see, this lines up really beautifully for Wescoe, as he can play Surrak the Hunt Caller, have Formidable, give it haste. His other creatures don't have summoning sickness, and he can just kill Ugin here. Paulo's tapped out. Interestingly, he can also get Paulo to 1. You know, if that's something that Wescoe has on his mind. I mean, he is so close to being able to just kill Paulo here. But the difference between 9 and 10 might mean that he needs to fire off and take care of Ugin. Really interesting spot. If he decides to just attack Paulo, I mean, it does feel like he's in a pretty good position, because Ugin would be forced to take out the Master of the Unseen, but if that happens, then Wescoe can make a couple of lethal creatures in response. Or at least one.
You're at 10
Doing the math here.
Yep. Attack you again. Your turn.
Getting some pretty cool updates from the back table, which we'll talk about in a minute here. In the meantime, that play did end up being take out Ugin. So Surrak, the Hunt Caller, and friends all attack Ugin, putting Ugin in the graveyard, and really kind of forcing the hand of Paulo here, who's going to need to fire off a Cruxifate here just to not die next turn. And it sounds like there were some shenanigans afoot on our
Sam
back
Black
table.
is playing the Bees deck that parts of Team Ultra Pro are playing, attacked with a bunch of manifests.
6 of them.
That had come into play from Whisperwood Elemental. His opponent, Josh Layton, just randomly decided which of the manifests he was going to block. Turns out he accidentally blocked a Hornet's Nest with his 5/5.
With his 5/5. He got turned face up, and 5 Bs happened. Okay, so here's Paulo trying to stay alive as much as possible. He just used a Hero's Downfall on a manifest after he played the Cruxifate that we talked about a moment ago. He's down to 9 now. But again, this whole entire game, Randy, has just been shaped around that Master of the Unseen. Ever since it came down, it's just changed every line of play for Paulo, and it's just been this source of unending creatures for Craig Wescoe. Even through Ugin.
Oh, here's Silumgar.
So here's Silumgar the Drifting Death, a.k.a. Old Silumgar. And Silumgar plus another dragon is enough to attack and give Craig Wescoe's team -2/-2 on the turn, which, you know, takes out a lot of the manifests, all the manifests before their turn face up, and even some of them after. Looks like a Fleecemane Lion in hand for Craig Wescoe, as well as a Den Protector. Den Protector, certainly one of the breakout cards from today. It's a card that we've seen all over the feature match tables here, and looks to be a big player in Standard. We've seen a lot of Den Protectors being turned face up and then returning another Den Protector to kind of keep a loop going.
Yeah, apparently the rest of the field is super aggro. The metagame breakdown says it's red aggro, followed by Abzan aggro, followed by Jeskai aggro and Jeskai tokens.
Wow.
Yeah, not really what we've seen on camera.
No. So he's going to attack.
With one of the manifests.
Paulo's at
Paulo's gotta
9 with
puzzle
a
this out.
3/7 with hexproof.
I mean, Deathmist
And
Raptor's a
flying.
beating, right?
Deathmist Raptor's a huge beating here.
That's, I think, what Craig is representing with this attack. Maybe he's just sneaking in a couple points of damage, though.
Maybe it's Surrak that would survive this encounter. It's Deathmist Raptor.
Wow.
But we have a response. It's ultimate price from Paulo Vitor Damo Da Rosa. So he anticipated that it could be that and said, okay, fine. And this is actually works out pretty well for Paulo. It uses up a lot of Craig's mana for the turn.
Yep.
And here's a morph now. That would be the Den Protector from Wescoe, who's now tapped out. It still feels like Paulo's just swimming upstream here as Craig's at 19. Paulo, he found Haven of the Spirit Dragon now. And remember, there's an Ugin sitting down in the graveyard somewhere, right? So
Also a Dragon Lord Ojutai.
and an Ojutai, which we could try to set up that combo that we talked about earlier with Silumgar, the Drifting Death, plus any other dragon that can attack. Haven of the Spirit Dragon was one of the cards I had my eye on from when the card previews first went up.
It's great.
Yeah,
Just
it just
a
seems
great
so
card.
good for these control decks. Anytime that you can, you know, get in effectively a spell out of one of your lands in a control deck, it's such a boon.
It's not even limited to the control decks. It's great in the red-green dragons decks, too.
Oh yeah, just for grinding purposes.
I mean, it fixes your mana because you need double red
Sure.
for Thunderbreak, and you, at some point,
Sure.
it just goes and gets a Stormbreath Dragon or gets the Thunderbreak back. Maybe it gets in the Tarka, but
Yeah, Haven of the Spirit Dragons.
I mean, those
I think
decks
that we're
need
going to
it.
see more and more of those.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually called it an honorary red card in my top 20 because
Oh,
it's
did
so
you?
good in those red-green decks.
And Wescoe is now content to just pass the turn back. He knows that the ball is in Paulo's court here. Paulo has a lot of action going on and has done a good job of keeping the board relatively clear and not getting ran over by manifest creatures, but he needs an end game here. You know, it feels like Ugin -2, you know, should happen at some point here. It was pretty tough for Wescoe to get in the full 9 to kill Ugin. I'm pretty sure that Paulo, when he passed the turn the last time after plussing Ugin, felt like he was in a pretty safe spot as far as getting to untap with it. But Big Bad Surrak had something else to say about it. Maybe PV didn't plan for that. And now that pesky Master of the Unseen is still just hanging around.
Haven did go turn into Ugin.
Okay, and let's see Ugin the Spirit Dragon again now. Is he going to...
Results.
Resolves.
All right, Rick Lee of Malaysia has tied things up with Kazuaki Fujimura.
Rick
On
Lee
our back
wants to be
table.
undefeated overnight. There's some of the decks we're talking about. Abzan aggro versus red aggro in that matchup.
Yeah, so
That's
Rick
why
Lee
they're
is
already
7-0.
ready for game 3, right?
Okay, so here's Ugin on 7. That's where he starts. If Paulo decides to -2, it would take out Master of the Unseen. The Manifest would live, and Craig could activate it twice.
Once again, he goes for the plus.
He goes
to
for
deal
the plus
3
again.
damage to a manifest.
I think he feels safe because, you know, he's got Silumgar the Drifting Death sitting there as additional blocking insurance. And yeah,
Craig responding to the activation by activating Master of the Unseen.
I mean, 9 loyalty is supposed to be a lot, right? Like, didn't last him a turn cycle before, but it should here.
Oh.
So that was a Fleece Mane Lion that got
Yeah,
bolted.
he was 1 mana short of being able to turn it face up and then activate the monstrous ability. We only hit 6, not 7. Oh, that's an interesting update. Josh Utter-Layton leads 1-0 over Sam Black. That is despite randomly blocking a Hornet's Nest. Josh managed to win that game anyway.
That might not be good news for the Red-Green Bees deck.
If you can't win that game.
Yeah, if you kind of go off and
Well,
still aren't able to win it.
It turns out Josh has the same Spirit Dragon that Paulo is sporting. Ugin came down and cleaned up a bunch of bees.
All right, let's see if Ugin can survive to an untapped step here for Paulo. It looks like that's exactly what's going to happen because here's Dragon Lord Ojutai.
Oh.
Sounds like Felipe Valdivia has a Narset emblem in play. He was pretty frustrated when we had him in the feature match earlier when he was about to ultimate and his opponent conceded.
That's against Shota? Mm-hmm. That can't be good for Shota.
That is completely horrible. That leaves him with like
3
a couple
spells
of
in his deck?
Silumgars or something. Yeah. All right. So is Paulo, how threatened does he feel by Dragon Lord Ojutai here?
Yeah, and the update comes in 30 seconds later that Valdivia wins that game. Can't take long to win with an with a Narset emblem in play against the blue-black control player.
No.
Instead,
Okay, and it looks like Paulo is going to respect Dragon Lord Ojutai, even though he's got the 3/7 flying hexproof blocker there. And he's going to take out both Dragon Lord Ojutai of his opponents and the Master of the Unseen and finally end that.
is that, or
In the meantime, though, a Courser of Crewfix is going to be turned face up, which is going to bring back a Death Mist Raptor face up for Craig Wescoe. That was all on end step. So, oh, another Dragon Lord Ojutai sitting on top of the library here for Wescoe. But Ugin looms large in the distance.
attack this. Attack Ugin. No effects.
And Ugin down as Silumgar eats
Gain a life.
a manifest there.
18.
So it looks like Paulo's still got some work to do here. He has done a very admirable job. I mean, he has contorted this board state to almost be in his favor.
Almost.
Almost.
No
And
interest in letting Fleece Mane Lion come down.
that was
with
Silumgar's scorn.
6 untapped mana.
And he just points at Silumgar, the Drifting Death. Death Mist Raptor looking pretty nice here. Can attack freely. Silumgar looking a little fragile there. Silumgar's scorn, you can take a look at that. It's a potential breakout card here. If you combine it with some of the powerful dragons, it becomes just good old counterspell card that we haven't had printed at that level for a really long time. And sometimes you can just get people.
Lots of the time,
Yeah, you
especially in the
just-
early turns of the game.
Yeah, just make them pay.
I mean, people are, when they're curving out, they're going to just tap out for whatever they have, turn 2, turn 3, turn 4. You can get something early. Get to this stage of the game, you probably have a dragon. Is it Foul Tongue Invocation? Sacrifice a creature, please.
Yes.
I'll gain 4 life.
You can see that Paulo's really taking the cue about these dragon-related spells. They've been pushed. These cards are really good
13.
if you have a dragon,
Oh, sorry. 13.
either in hand or on the battlefield. And Silumgar's just been kind of hanging out for a long time. Paulo's going to take this time to get in for 3 damage.
Craig, of course, chose to sacrifice Death Mist Raptor since he can potentially get it back.
17. Attack. 11.
And down to 11 for Paulo. And there's that Dragon Lord Ojutai that is going to get immediately Silumgar scorned. Paulo had a plan for that. He knew it was coming. It had been sitting on top of Wescoe's library. Paulo has certainly been able to leverage the fact that he knows all the cards that Craig Wescoe has been drawing for forever. Though it does look like Paulo's finally out of gas here.
Yeah, he was briefly hellbent. He's just playing off the top now.
So what are his big cards? Is he a dig through time?
Yes.
That's his main.
Fully 4.
It is considered the best. He found a disdainful stroke. And it looks like Craig Wescoe is going to go ahead and crack that Flooded Strand so he doesn't have to draw an Elvish Mystic, not the kind of action that he's looking for.
No basics left to go get. He did not actually put a land into play there. He just wanted to shuffle.
Ye old fail to find.
Exactly.
Got to do it. And there's Deathmist Raptor, so that worked out for him. He got to upgrade the top card of his library pretty significantly. He can play it face down and then turn it face up all in the same turn. He can get back that other Deathmist Raptor too. And he's churning through his deck thanks to Courser, still good. And there's a Valorous Stance as well. Silumgar, the Drifting Death, doing noble work here. But he's going to be able to start attacking his Craig Wescoe.
Sure. Go.
Oh, he's not attacking.
Well, it's going to take him a turn to get the Raptors in play.
But doesn't he have a monstrous Fleece main line and 2/2/4s? Facing down a 3/7, don't you rumble there? All right, back to Paulo, who has scryed a card to the bottom of his deck and passed the turn back. Here comes that Raptor, talked about a minute ago. That's going to trigger the other Raptor to come into play, and all of a sudden, Wescoe has a really impressive board state. He's actually going to play this Raptor face down. He's got so much mana floating around, he may as well just play it face down so he can turn it face up and get that extra +1/+1 counter on it. Doesn't have a lot else going on. He knows what his draw step is for the turn, and there's that pesky Elvish Mystic again. All right, well, Rick Lee, he's going to be undefeated overnight.
Wow.
He has won 2 games to
Should be 1. He dropped the first one.
1 against Kazuaki Fujimura, who's going to be at 6-2 overnight. But congratulations to Rick Lee, undefeated at the Pro Tour on day 1. That's got to feel fantastic. Now, the players we're watching now have both picked up 2 losses apiece. But big gap, right, coming in at X&2 versus X&3 overnight.
Wow.
And that was it?
That was it.
All right, Wescoe was just setting up for that big attack, and somehow Paulo Vitor Damo Da Rosa, after maneuvering that entire game, ran out of gas at the end, and the card advantage spells for Craig Wescoe were able to get him there.
It's really Deathmist Raptor.
We'll be back after these messages.
Hunt bigger game by playing in a Grand Prix. These open tournaments feature the best players in your region as well as top Magic pros. Upcoming Grand Prix include Kyoto, Krakow, Sao Paulo, Toronto, Atlantic City, Paris, Florence, and Shanghai. Visit magic.wizards.com/Grand Prix for a complete schedule. Make Magic history by joining in on the biggest Magic Premier Play weekend ever, featuring events in Chiba, Utrecht, and Las Vegas. Pre-register now at magic.wizards.com/Modern Masters Weekend.
All right, back in our feature match area here in round 8. Let's take a look over at our King of the Hill match where we have Felipe Valdivia from Chile. He's playing against Shota Yasuoka from Japan. Blue-black control is what you see on the right-hand side of your screen here. Playing against Esper control for Felipe. Now, Felipe is up a game here in this match after having ultimated Narset, which, as you pointed out, Randy, takes Shota Yasuoka's deck from the full 60 down to 4 or something like that of actual playable cards. Remember, Narset's ultimate ability says you get an emblem. Says
It's actually
your opponent's,
6.
Is it 6? Yeah, they
3
can't cast
Icefall
non-creature
regions.
spells.
Couple of Silumgars. One other Silumgar. Yeah, we saw Shota earlier playing Adrian Sullivan in the control mirror. I mean, pseudo mirror, not card for card mirror, obviously. It's pretty interesting, actually.
11.
Ishikawa has actually tweeted out a quote from Shota on Twitter talking about that matchup where he quotes Shota as saying, "As soon as I understood my opponent was control, I counted his library." He counted 20 cards later, but the game was already decided.
It's a great quote. It sounds
I
like
like
flavor text. So we've got a Stratus Dancer with a counter on it, beating down for Yasuoka. And he's looks like got his opponent down to 1 here. Felipe almost dead, facing down 2 creatures, both of which are lethal. Here's Anticipate, though, for Felipe. I see a Hero's Downfall on the top as well as a Utter End. So he's going to be able to take out one of these creatures. But he needs to answer both or else he's dead. Cool to see a Stratus Dancer at work here as well. It's not a card. It's a card I think that a lot of people had on their radar but wasn't entirely clear about what its role would be. And it looks like Shota has decided to use it as a sideboard card, and it's beating down. Here's another copy of Anticipate now for Felipe. And he's going to take a Thoughtseize that he can't actually cast. All right, he kind of laughs as he casts it. He just wanted to take a look at Shota's hand, but being at 1 life and casting a Thoughtseize is not a surefire way to win a game. So that's going to do it for game 2 between those 2 players as Shota Yasuoka picks up the second game and forces game 3. So let's take a look at what's going on Sam Black versus Josh Utter-Leyton on the back table there. We had a kind of a funny story there where Josh just randomly decided which creature to block, and it ended up being a Hornet Nest that was face down as a manifest and turned into 5 bees on him. Managed to win that game anyway, though, but it looks like things are going significantly worse for Josh Utter-Leyton here. Again, he's up a game, but he's at 4. And apparently taking some amount of damage here as well. So this one could be over quite quickly here in Sam Black's favor. This deck's kind of weird, Randy. Like, what's the deal behind this Bees deck?
Yeah, I talked with Bob Maher about it, and Bob was looking at blue-black control. He felt like the deck Adrian was playing was good. He wasn't sure he knew exactly what to anticipate that his opponents would be doing. Accidentally tapping out and getting Nissa'd in playtest games, things like that. So what Bob really wanted was something where if he got the right matchups, he was just 90-10 favored, 85-15 favored. And he was willing to accept that in some matchups, he might just be a 30-70 dog. The control matchup in particular is really bad for this Bees deck. So, I think Bob latched onto it, and the more they kept testing it, it seemed to be doing well. And more and more of the team opted into it. When I talked to Bob, 24 hours ago, he didn't know that Sam was going to play it. He thought there was maybe a 40% chance Sam would play it, and 40% chance Sam would play something else. And
well, Sam's playing it. He's got Josh Utter-Leyton down to 1, and he's got a Scuttling Doom Engine on top of his deck. So things looking quite good from Sam Black's perspective here. Here's Crux of Fate to try to reset the board for Josh at the last possible moment. And he does have Double Dragon in play here as well, Josh Utter-Leyton. Looks like one of them was stolen, but he gets to keep both. How insane is that?
not bad.
Boon Satyr, though, is going to fall off. And the stolen dragon, thanks to Silumgar, that's a Stormbreath dragon, is going to attack and kill Xenagos. So still a productive turn there for Josh, but the Scuttling Doom Engine can be a big issue here for Josh Utter-Leyton. He would have to trade it off with Silumgar, but that would leave him dead. Remember, when it dies, it deals 6 damage to target opponent. So Josh is surveying the scene, but that Doom Engine is really, really rough for him. He needs to exile it. It can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less, so you can't run the chump blocks. Not only that, but Josh doesn't have such a thing. So he's going to have to block with the Stormbreath Dragon because that's the only block that leaves the Scuttling Doom Engine alive. As Silumgar having Death Touch is now working against Josh somehow. And all of the 1-for-1 removal spells that you'd normally associate don't work on Scuttling Doom Engine. Even Ugin can't take care of it. This is a major issue. I wonder if what Josh has as far as outs go. You know, this is where you look at like a Shota Yasuoka and you say, "Oh, Icefall Regent, nice play." I suppose he could find another Silumgar and steal it.
Sure.
Dig through time.
Let's see if these 7 have an answer.
There's an Ugin, but like we said, that's not good enough here.
He just... Does he have an answer? Is this
It
game just
feels
over?
like he doesn't. It feels like Sam has this more or less locked up, though. He is
Gets
digging
one
for
more draw
something.
phase. And...
I mean, Sam Black's at 27, so there's no chance on that. You see the polluted delta way off to the side because Josh is at 1. And he's going to pass the turn back, and this could just do it right here. As Sam just immediately goes to attacks and just ships it in there. I don't think Josh can do anything. Can he block and bounce his own dragon here?
He can potentially kill his own dragon. Hilarious.
Okay, that does buy him a turn potentially, but you know he needs to be working towards a goal here, right?
Yeah, I mean, not dying is a goal.
Did Sam not attack with the Boon Satyr there?
Correct.
What's the reasoning?
I didn't want to get it eaten by Silumgar, I guess.
Just in case something happened in the Doom Engine.
It's true, though. I mean, given Josh's plan.
So now he needs to find Silumgar, like, immediately, right?
Yes.
He has a dig through time, although he's only got 4 cards in his yard. So he can't dig and play Silumgar, and that's going to do it. Why don't we jump back over to the Valdivia versus Yasuoka match that we have going there.
And so Sam and Josh go to game 3 now.
Yeah, that's a game 3. That was game 2 for them that Sam Black just won.
Winner will be 6-2.
Go ahead.
Winner of this will be 8-0 and tied for first overnight.
Go to 19. 17.
Talked about one Shota Yasuoka quote. I got another one from Josh Bennett. He's doing text coverage for this event. It's like, Shota is the best. Why haven't you people been voting for him for the Hall of Fame? What's wrong with you? Yes, I know he only has one Pro Tour top 8. I like that one too.
Shota is a fan favorite. There's no doubt about it. He's so businesslike. He plays so fast, and he brings crazy decks and succeeds with them.
Mm-hmm.
He has definitely got a fan following, and I think a lot of people would love for the chance to vote for him for Hall of Fame, but that one Pro Tour top 8 just doesn't cut it, you know, resume-wise.
Mm-hmm. Does have the Player of the Year title. He's been in contention deep in a lot of them, but...
I bet you he'll get there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's going to have to get to, 4 either.
I
People
agree.
just want to see more than one.
Just more than one at least, right? Yeah, he had good runs at the Players' Championship the first year that we did that.
Go.
All right, let's see what Shota has in store for this turn on a completely empty board for both players. This is pretty typical of a control mirror. There's a lot of plain lands and saying go. Sometimes some card draw spells are cast either on end step or on the main phase, and then eventually somebody goes for something. And it's a play that both players care about. And finally, the first one to blink here is actually Shota Yasuoka, who misses his land drop for the turn while Felipe has not. And this can become pretty bad for Shota if this continues. You really want to keep at land parity with your opponent in these control matchups, because what it's going to end up happening is somebody's going to try to play a card that matters, and they're going to have a control fight, a counter war over it. And when they start doing that, it becomes, your mana starts to get constrained. That's 3 land drops in a row now for Yasuoka that he's missed, and 1 for Felipe, which was last turn.
Yeah, the other bad thing if you run out of land drops is you wind up having to discard to hand size.
That's right. And
Suddenly
right now
you're forced to pick a fight so that you don't have to discard to hand size, but you don't want to be forced to pick a fight.
yeah, they're
before you're
both on
ready.
the verge of that. It looks like Shota has decided to fire off a duress here rather than discard. And this is going to be negate for Felipe. He doesn't want to get duressed. A lot of his threats come in the form of cards that can be taken by duress, planeswalkers and the like.
Fetch. 20.
So Felipe is going to go ahead and fire off a fetch land before. Looks like he is ready, though, to try to cast something here. And it's Dragonlord Ojutai. That's his first attempt, and it's going to get dissolved, and Felipe immediately says, sure.
How many hands? 5.
Really stumped on this dissolve scry trigger here, trying to figure out what he wants to do with this card. He decided to keep it on top. All right, looks like Felipe was just sort of testing the waters. He wasn't really willing to go for an all-out battle. What you'll see a lot of times, again, in these control mirrors is that when that big fight does happen, if it happens on your own turn and your opponent wins that counterfight, they often can untap and slam something huge because you've used up a bunch of your mana to try to fight the counter war. And he doesn't want to fall into that trap. He wants to leave up counter magic of his own, like this Dissolve, for example, which is going to counter Silumgar, the Drifting Death. So 2 mana left over here for Shota Yasuoka. Enough for 1 counter spell of some sort.
Yeah, he's representing Silumgar Scorn. I don't think he actually has one, but he's hoping that the threat of
Negate's
blue,
also something. And there's Silumgar, the Drifting Death, for the other side. So it's actually going to have to be Silumgar Scorn, and doesn't have it. And he finds a second copy of Dig Through Time. So we're going to see a dig on end step here, as he's going to start taking damage now from the very annoying Silumgar, the Drifting Death. Card's hard to deal with. All the spot removal doesn't do anything. And now the ball's in Shota Yasuoka's court.
Yeah,
Felipe just gets to sit here and say, I'm just going to keep attacking you and playing lands. Do something.
The thing that Shota would like to do is Dig Through Time. We'll see how far he gets in terms of trying to resolve this.
Oh, this is nice for him.
Oh, wow, Foul Tongue Invocation.
Yeah. He's going to reveal a dragon as well just to get the bonus life points. But the key here is that this is one of the ways you can kill a creature with hexproof is by making them sack it. And it's particularly effective in a position like this where it's unlikely for Felipe to have very many creatures on the battlefield at any one time, and the one you're going to kill is going to be really important. Felipe's playing Dragonlord Ojutai and Silumgar the Drifting Death here. 2 hexproof creatures when they want to be. And there's Silumgar Scorn, though, to take down the Foul Tongue Invocation. So Silumgar is still alive.
I feel like that might have been bait, though.
I think you're right. I think that this this Dig Through Time is the payoff here for Shota.
He's not leaving mana up to defend it, though. He's tapping fully 5, it looks like.
Yeah, because he's got another one in his hand that he knows he can resolve. Or at least it has a good chance of resolving.
Valdivia sees the fact that Shota is tapped out now for his own Dig Through Time, and Felipe goes for one of his. Potentially can even find a counter here. Sounds like Paulo even things up against Craig Wescoe.
That's right.
So Valdivia gets to resolve his dig through time first.
Let's
Did
see
it
if
in
he-
response.
Yeah, maybe he finds a negate in there. Or a dissolve.
No.
But you know what?
Wow.
He did
Shota
find
gets
a
to resolve
dissolve.
his. He found one and just declined.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is like
He's
you
just
talked
like,
about the
sure.
timing of when this fight is happening. Shota picked this fight on Felipe's end step, knowing, you know what? I'd love to resolve a dig through time, but if I just get my opponent tapped out, that's fine.
This is risky, though, for Felipe, because if he
Letting
just
his-
has
yeah.
the one dissolve, you got to feel like after your opponent resolves the dig through time, which is kind of the big payoff here, even if he goes for a big spell here, your one dissolve isn't necessarily going to stop that. He knows he could have counterspelled the dig through time because Shota was tapped out and forced him to do something now. This is interesting stuff. Let's see what Shota can do with the opening of having his opponent tap down enough to really only be able to get the one counterspell through unless he's also got a negate. Nice grip of cards here for Yasuoka. You take a look at what he's got. He's got a lot of his big stuff there with another dig through time of Dragonlord Silumgar and then an Ugin. And he's got a pair of Silumgar Scorns to protect all of this stuff too. The hero's downfalls don't look great, but if any Planeswalkers show up, then it will. Another update from our back table. Josh Utter Layton has defeated Sam Black 2-1.
Oh, wow. Josh got basically the same blue-black control deck as Paulo.
Go.
Blue-black with just a touch of white for Ojitai.
And there's that second dig through time now for Shota Yasuoka.
Yeah, Shota did not go for anything main phase because his opponent had enough mana for dissolve. So we're once again in Valdivia's end step. Counter your dissolve, reveal a dragon.
The fight is on here. And does Felipe feel like he needs to follow through and keep that dig through time from not resolving, or would he rather leave that backup dissolve for Shota's turn here?
Results?
So Silumgar Scorn resolves, successfully countering the dissolve. Once again, Valdivia says, I would like to resolve my own dig. I think Shota should fight this,
It does feel like he should fight this.
and he chooses to.
Even if it means that his own dig might not resolve.
right.
Watching your opponent resolve 2 digs in one game when you're in a matchup like this is not fun at all.
13 can?
So Shota taps out. He's done casting spells here. He's got a dig through time on the bottom of the stack, and he's now got Silumgar Scorn pointed at Valdivia's dig through time.
That's right.
And Valdivia has one dissolve left.
He does. He's got the mana to cast it as well, so he could fire that off.
But then, which does he counter? Does he counter Shota's dig, or does he force through his own?
That's the big question here. It feels like he's walked down the path of really trying to resolve his own dig here, but that did seem to have the attachment to it of him trying to find a counterspell for the other dig. He's like, which one are you countering? That's pretty good. Looks like Felipe hadn't fully considered which one he wanted to actually counter here.
It's true.
Got to target something.
Meanwhile, it sounds like Craig Wescoe got the win over Paulo.
That's right. Craig Wescoe defeats Paulo Vitor Damo 2-1.
Okay.
They forgot to resolve the scry there for Felipe. So after the dust settled, that was a successful fight for Shota as they exchanged a bunch of cards, but nothing ended up happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's a
And now it's
successful fight
Shota's
for
turn.
Shota if he resolves something here in his main phase.
And we know that he's got the... sorry, let's listen in. Okay, they just made sure that they could still do the scry. We know that he's got a Dragonlord, Silumgar. I don't know if that's the big play. All right, here we go.
Ugin is the big play.
Ugin's the big play. Is there a negate? I think this is just an anticipate in response. Yeah, it's
is
just
an
anticipate.
anticipate. So yeah, Shota did not manage to get his dig to resolve, but neither did Valdivia, and Shota was able to untap and go for Ugin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Playing this fantastically is Shota Yasuoka, who
Minus
now...
6.
Yeah, that takes out Silumgar, the Drifting Death, and leaves Shota
21.
with Ugin still intact here, really forcing the issue on Felipe to come up with another threat and quickly.
Okay, go.
about Dragon Lord Ojutai? Does that count?
That Dragon Lord Ojutai absolutely counts. Very difficult to kill. The good news for Shota Yasuoka, though, is that he does have a pair of Hero's Downfall in hand. And if Dragon Lord Ojutai wants to start attacking, you got to feel like 2 Hero's Downfalls would be enough to take down the Dragon Lord. Jace's Ingenuity is a nice follow-up play as well. In fact, Silumgar Scorn also helps him protect. So it doesn't look like Dragon Lord Ojutai is going to get it done here. But here's another threat. All right, here's Narset Transcendent. This gets interesting. It's going to get immediately Silumgar Scorn.
Shota has to say no.
Even with a double downfall, he really wants to make sure that those get used up on Dragon Lord Ojutai, and there's a Silumgar Scorn in response.
So Valdivia succeeds in forcing his Narset into play.
Right. Now the question here from Shota's side is, can he use both of these Heroes Downfalls to take down both threats on his opposing side of the field here? No, another Silumgar Scorn, but Yasuoka does get to take out Dragon Lord Ojutai thanks to the second copy of Downfall, and now he's got to worry about Narset Transcendent. You see him sort of slowly drag that card over. Okay, so that's the easy part. And unfortunately for Shota, he just has to pass the turn back. Now, oh no, he is not going to pass the turn back. He's just going to play...
Steal your Narset?
Steal your Narset.
Steal your Narset. Shota Yasuoka, ladies and gentlemen. We fight, we fight. I get you to tap out. I start pulling a little bit ahead. Oh, yeah, you're going to have Narset. I'll just steal it.
With Dragon Lord Silumgar, he also plus Narset and found a negate on top of his library as well, which is fantastic here. Wow. Now, you got to wonder if you're Felipe Valdivia. Remember, Shota had to reveal Dragon Lord Silumgar like 3 or 4 different times, so that play was somewhat telegraphed. I don't know if Felipe had a choice in the matter, but this does not look good for him all of a sudden. We're in extra turns here as well. These control matchups can go on pretty late, and this one has as well.
Is this turn 2?
It looks like it's turn 2. Yeah, that die in the middle between the 2 decks has been put there to indicate that, I believe.
So Shota has this game if he has enough turns.
He's rebounding Jace's Ingenuity now. He's
rebounding Jace's Ingenuity. The problem is he needs to win by his next turn.
Go to 12.
So this is turn 2, turn 3 for Felipe. Back
Shota
to
only gets
Shota
turn
is
4. Okay, Ugin goes up.
Yeah, which is going to drop Felipe down to 9, but that is...
Is he 1 short?
I mean, he can get him for 6 next turn total. Foul Tongue Invocation, or excuse me, Duress is what I mean. That gets rid of a Bile Blight from Felipe.
Wow, he is...
How is Bile Blight hanging around still?
1 Ugin activation short, isn't he? Or 1 attack phase.
Yeah.
Shota played this game great.
This was awesome.
He has complete and total control of the game. Okay.
Felipe is going to counter the rebounded Jace's Ingenuity. I don't think it matters.
Well, I mean, if you're Shota, he wants to get more cards. Like, if he can find another Ugin, how many does he play?
Activate Ugin, play new Ugin plus that. That could absolutely do it.
He only plays 1, though. That's the problem.
He only plays 1 in his whole deck?
Yeah.
Can he find enough mana to Haven of the Spirit Dragon it back, maybe? We're digging pretty deep here, obviously.
Wow, 1 turn.
There's an Icefall Regent, too.
Not good enough.
Not good enough. He's going to get him down to 3. He can play another lethal attacker. He's got Felipe out of cards with 2 Planeswalkers on the battlefield, plus a dragon, and even another dragon if he wants it. And he's going to pass the turn back, and it's going to be too late as we go to turn 5 here. Wow. So close to undefeated for Shota Yasuoka overnight. And he's probably going to have to settle for 7-0-1, which
technically
I guess is undefeated. Yeah.
Not unblemished.
Not what he wanted, though. Especially after having maneuvered this game so beautifully.
Yeah, he really did. Got the counter for that, too. But it's a draw.
Yeah, he looks up at the judge, says, that's it. Wow.
Yep, that's it.
That's going to do it. So that's it for round 8 here. Our 2 control players take a draw. Something we're not unused to seeing, but it's a bit of a shame there, I think. That game was coming to a natural conclusion anyway. I don't think there's any outs left in the deck for Felipe. But still, great Magic, really cool stuff. Getting to see Silumgar steal Narset was pretty sweet, and then immediately start hitting action as well. I mean, the fact is, it goes quite nicely in Shoti Asoka's deck.
True story.
Yeah, it's a card that you would absolutely like to play in that if you didn't mind stretching your mana. But I'm really going to be keeping my eye out over the rest of the weekend here on Shota, because he 3-0'd his first draft, which is kind of okay, we got through that, and now he's just crushing in Standard and Constructed, which he tends to do anyway. And
he'll be drafting in Pod 1.
Also, I like his deck. Like, personal preference style, I think the deck looks really cool. What stands out for you about the deck?
I mean, it's just a solid blue-black control deck, right? You've got the dragon synergies. It's similar to where Channel Fireball wound up. It's a deck just has everything you would want. 3 Crux of Fate. You got the Thoughtseizes. Jace's Ingenuity is maybe the thing that puts it over the top. He's actually got 6 card drawing spells between the 3 Digs and 3 Jace's Ingenuities.
Yeah.
So he is ready to fight the long-term game. And you saw him there. He was able to maneuver that game into a winning position.
He was, and we've seen that. I watched him a bit in the feature match area when I was down there doing some floor reporting, and we saw a good amount of that too, where the Jace's Ingenuity was kind of him turning the corner on the game in many spots. He would spend the first few turns removing his opponent's threats and maybe setting up a couple of draws to hit his land drops. But the turn when he finally played his Jace's Ingenuity, as long as he wasn't under like dire threat, it felt like the game. It's one of those inevitability things where you're just like, this is not going to go well for his opponent after that.
Right.
One of the other things I really like about the deck is that it has a nice spread. The early part is really dedicated to answers and even some of the hard counters, like we saw Silumgar score and do a lot of work down in the feature match area. But I love the top end too. I almost wonder if he wants like another Ugin, just like the one Ugin almost feels like it's not enough. But he certainly was able to leverage that in that last game against Felipe.
He is the Haven. It's sort of like 2 Ugins. It's like 1.5 Ugins.
It is like an extra Ugin. How many Havens is he playing?
Just one.
Just the one. That's
I gotta say though, hats off to Rick Lee.
Rick Lee is clean undefeated.
Clean undefeated. He's the only 8-0.
Yeah, he's playing Obzon aggro. So it's funny because we were talking about the decks that we had in the feature match area earlier, and we haven't really seen a whole lot of the aggressive decks out there. But it looks like, and of course, so it looks like a great part of the field is made up of these aggressive decks. Now, the really cool part, though, is that what ends up coming over to day 2 is the interesting stuff.
For sure.
So that's what we're going to be keeping an eye on. All right, why don't we send it to the news desk and Richard Hagan.
All right, thanks very much to the guys. Plenty to get through between here and the end of the show. You can see one of our 8-0 players, the 8-0 player, getting ready to talk to Brian David Marshall. So why don't we get straight to business? How many dragons did we see in the feature match area? It's time to unveil our Dragon Tracker score for day 1. We had a bumper crop here in the final round. Let's take a look. The flames come up, and we get to 41 dragons were in the feature match area under the lights here on day 1. Great stuff. Well, what about the action in round 8? It's time for 4 from the floor. Once again, we went out with roving cameras to get a sense of what was happening at the top tables. And I want to start with Nam Sung-wook. There you see him, NSW on Magic Online. He was at 6-1 from MTG Mid up against that man, and that green hair was indicative of the deck because Robert Graves was all about the green cards. They were trying to get to 7-1. Here they are shuffling for game 2. There you see Nam looking at a 6-card hand. It did not go well for Nam Sung-wook, and I can tell you that Robert Graves advances to 7-1 overnight. Great job by him. Only his 2nd Pro Tour, and he was thrilled to be 7-1, I can tell you. Now, there's Ben Friedman in the headphones and the Hawaiian shirt. On the right there, you see him again, 6-1, and he was up against one of the great stories of the weekend so far. That man from Northern Ireland, Stephen Madden, playing his mono green Devotion deck. They went at it hammer and tongs. It was a very tight match, but I can tell you that when someone deals 13 points of damage with a Corsair Prefix, that probably means that it's Stephen Madden, and it was. So Madden went to 7-1, and a long time after that Scried Temple, Ben Friedman went down. What about this match? This is Adrian Sullivan you see on the right of your screen there. And this is Adrian Sullivan from Madison, Wisconsin. Again, at 6-1. Looking at a hand there, you see a dig through time and a Bile Blight there. And opposite him, Hall of Famer Jelge Wiegersma of the Netherlands, a Team Pro Tour champion from Seattle 2004. This was a tight one, but in the end, Wiegersma fell to 6-2, and Adrian Sullivan advances to day 2 at 7-1. So that was their match. One more to bring you. And here you see, that man is Marco Camilluzzi of Italy. He has done very nicely, no worse than the top 48 from his last 3 Pro Tours. Corso Crucifix end hostilities there for the Italian. He was up against Jamie Archdeacon. He's played 3 Pro Tours, top 25 of San Juan, the best for the Canadian, Jamie Archdeacon. And it was the Canadian who won that one, 7-1 for him, 6-2 for Marco Camilluzzi. So that was our 4 from the floor. There's Jamie Archdeacon closing in on victory. That's our 4 from the floor. I can tell you that we have our 8-0 player lined up to talk to you right now. So here's Brian David Marshall with Rick Lee.
Thanks, Rich. I'm Brian David Marshall. I'm sitting here with Rick Lee. Rick,
yes.
You qualified, you live in Malaysia, you had a local PTQ to go to.
Yeah.
How local was it?
Very far.
You actually bought an airline ticket
Yeah.
to go to a PTQ to qualify for this.
Yes.
Did your friends think you were crazy?
Not really. I've been doing this in a lot of tournaments. Even PPTQ, I took a flight down to play a PPTQ, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're coming to this tournament, you've earned your flight here, you've earned your spot at the tournament, and you're thinking about what to play for this new standard format. What is the deck you chose?
I chose Abzan Aggro.
Okay, now I was watching you play this deck, and you have Death Mist Raptors in the deck.
Yes.
But, really only a couple of Whisperwood Elementals in terms of ways to put face-down creatures into play. So this is kind of just more like a value Death Mist Raptor than an aggro Death Mist Raptor.
True. While Death Mist Raptor get through a lot of things, when you attack with Death Mist Raptor, most people are not going to block it because they are going to trade their Siege Rhinos, their Tassigos, even the Corsair they will be giving out for you. So it's most likely a 3 to cast for 3/3 unblockable most of the time. Yeah, unless it's tokens, then it will be
And they just
toast the tokens to you. Yeah.
Sure. Now another big card from Dragons of Tarkir that's in your deck is Sirach the Hunt Caller.
Yes.
And I've seen you do some really terrifying opens on your opponents with Anafenza the Foremost into Sirach the Hunt Caller, attacking for 8. Attacking for 9, just haste,
10.
and then putting it's right, you get the counter.
Yeah, it's 10.
And then putting Siege Rhino into play with haste.
Yeah.
I mean, you think Siege Rhino's bad enough? Wait do you give it haste? It is disgusting. What your opponents just have been on their back heel.
Yes.
What made you decide that this was the deck you wanted to play for the tournament?
Because this is the deck that I use it to qualify for my PDQ.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were playing Abzan Aggro to qualify for this tournament?
Yeah, I've been playing Abzan Aggro since last year.
Okay. So what's the reaction been from people at home in Malaysia? Has your phone been just beeping and buzzing?
Yeah, sure. And I also won the administration for our Malaysians, so they've been popping up in the...
Anyone at home who helped you prepare for the tournament that you'd like to thank?
Yeah, you win. It's the most person on 10.
Okay.
Too. Yeah.
All right, there you go. 8-0. Rick Lee here at Pro Tour Dragons of Tarkir, hoping to keep the momentum going on day 2 tomorrow.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks very much to Brian David Marshall. I can tell you that the final standings are in, but before I get to that, I have a statement that needs to be read out to you. Player disqualified from Pro Tour Dragons of Tarkir, Wizards of the Coast. Jeremy Desani has been disqualified from Pro Tour Dragons of Tarkir for misrepresenting the game state to judges. The incident occurred in round 8 when judges were called to his table by the players in the match. After an investigation, it became clear that Desani had modified his version of the story while discussing the incident with judges. As a result, Desani was disqualified from the event. It's a statement from Wizards of the Coast about a player disqualified here in round 8. This, meanwhile, is the end of day standings, which must mean it's time for the end of day wrap.